Get strong.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. I am your host, LeeAnne Hayden, and I am joining this week with our guest, Lauren Beach. She is from Boston. She has such a great story. She's a Crohn survivor, and she's been in an ostomy. I'm not sure how long, because we're going to talk about that. We just started talking about her story, and I'm like, wait, hold, we got to get this recorded so everybody can hear what's going on and learn your story. So, Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here because I know we connected on Instagram and everybody laughs because I connect with everybody in ostomies on Instagram. And that's where I find everybody for, we all connect on Instagram and then I have them on the podcast. But I loved how we connected just a couple weeks ago and seeing your story. And I'm a workout-aholic. Like I work out 6 days a week for an hour. Nothing's changed, heavy lifting, all that stuff. And I love how you talk about working out and eating healthy and doing all those things that you did prior. So you're bringing such a great message to everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Recently, I've been seeing so many people out there on Instagram. I first started my page a few years back, and I admittedly didn't keep up with it as much as I would like to. But now that I've kind of been out there again and speaking openly, I've come across so many other young women, and it's just really inspiring to see it all.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it's funny how Instagram seems to be the platform that everybody's talking so openly about it, how we're building this large, huge community around it, which is awesome. So let's get into it. We start talking about, your story and what happened. And, you've had Crohn's, you found out you had Crohn's, all of that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about
Yeah, totally. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's when I was 12 years old. I was in middle school, I think 7th grade. I had lost a ton of weight. I missed a lot of school, in and out of doctor's offices. It took actually quite a while for me to get diagnosed. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. There were points when my parents thought I might have an eating disorder because I was so skinny. And of course, I didn't want to eat anything because that made my pain worse. And my main issue was, going to the bathroom constantly. And so finally I ended up having a colonoscopy done, and that's when they, confirmed that I had Crohn's disease. Actually, at the time, they used to call it Crohn/colitis just because of where the disease was located in my intestines. But yeah, so all throughout middle school, high school, didn't have the best time. I was, in and out of the hospital many times. I kind of cycled through all the typical Crohn's IBD drugs that are out there. I was on prednisone a lot, so I had the big moon face, chubby cheeks. That's my parents said, moon face. I feel like there were times when I didn't even know what I looked like because my face was always chubby, which, was not fun in high school, especially. But, I got through it. And then I graduated high school and I was ready to go off to college. I was super excited to go, move away from my parents and everything. And looking back, I probably wouldn't have chosen that path to move far away. I mean, it wasn't far away, 2 hours, but far away from my school. I went to UMass Amherst. Yeah. So big school. I was like, let's do this. It felt like college to me. I was like, I don't want to go to a small school and live at home. So I tried it. And, they always say that you should fail a couple times in life, right? I did not make it through. Most of my first semester, got really, really sick, ended up having to take a medical leave. I can remember even just the walk to class was hard for me, like having to stop to the bathroom, trying to, get to class. So it wasn't a good situation for me. So I ended up moving home. And when I was 19 was kind of the year that the whole ostomy thing took place. So leading up to that year, I was in and out of the hospital again. I had, tried all these different crazy diets to try and help me. I was super underweight again. And, I ended up I had an abscess, I guess, a couple of times in my colon. And then eventually it got so bad that it caused total bowel obstruction. So I had been in the hospital for a few days, so much pain. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I had the ostomy bag. So surprise, welcome to your new life.
I know that feel. And you're like, oh, wait, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah. So there was, I can think back to being even in high school and saying to my mom, I want the bag. But I really didn't know what the bag was. I knew it was something that, happened to Crohn's patients. And I kind of always thought it was like an old person thing. So I had wished that I, didn't always say that and maybe took some time to actually educate myself on what it was. So waking up was definitely a big shock, but I got through it. So my first surgery, they did what's called a temporary loop colostomy. So they had thought at that time, maybe we'll give your colon a rest and let, everything kind of divert and you'll have the ostomy maybe for a few months and then we'll be able to get it reversed. But unfortunately, my disease was just pretty severe. So ended up having a few more surgeries. Now I no longer have a colon and I have the permanent ileostomy bag. But yeah, so that's sort of my story. And I'm 28 now, so I've had the bag almost 10 years, which is
Wow.
crazy to think about.
That is crazy.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so wild ride leading up to it, but definitely, I was of course kind of upset when I had found out that I had to have this, and I was in college. I was like, oh gosh, like how am I going to go to college with this thing? Can I, wear real clothes anymore? How am I going to date? Like all these things, running through my head. I think actually the biggest thing running through my head was like, I can't wear jeans anymore. And, 10 years later, you can wear whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can date, you can have a normal life. So I've certainly come a long way. And that's kind of, why I started my little Instagram page, The Colonist Chronicles, is to kind of be a sounding board for people and let people know that you can still have a normal life with this thing. And yeah, it has its ups and downs. And I'd be lying to you if I said that I was always this, confident and positive about it. I definitely have my bad days, but overall, it's good to connect with other people and know that there's so many of us out there going through this or going through similar things. So
It really is. And and I love that story. I mean, you said so much, and I want to dig into a couple of things with what you talked about, because I think there's some things that aren't talked about, right? So it's, I was lucky when I had mine, I was married, right? So surprise husband, you just got to deal with it. You're married, right? But being a young girl and going through like dating and you're right, like, can I wear the same clothes? Like I remember one of my things is I started crying in the middle of my closet like within the first week because it was swollen from surgery, right? So I'm pulling out clothes like I can't wear these things anymore, and then now I am. So you felt the same way, right? So now wearing jeans, how's that feel?
Yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah. So I always tell this to my mom, but I remember like right leading up to my surgery, I had taken that year off of school and I had just accepted a letter to go to a different college that was a little bit closer to home. So I was like thinking that I was going to be able to go back, that upcoming semester. Ended up having to delay that a little bit. But at the time, I had just ordered a bunch of clothes online, and I knew that they were sitting on my front step at home waiting for me. And at the time, it was like the look was like those tight, like bodycon dresses and skirts, like the typical college girl going out outfits. And I was like, Mom, I'm not going to be able to wear this anymore. Like this stinks. I'm so upset about this, but I was able to wear it. Like you said, the stoma was swollen at first, so that kind of got me down a little bit. But once all that went away, it's like you can wear whatever you want. And there's so many companies out there. Like one of the ones that I love is Ostomy Secrets, who makes these like high-waisted underwear or like these wraps that you can wear to kind of like conceal it a little bit if you're gonna wear something a little bit tighter fitting. But yeah, jeans are great. I feel like the mom jeans are super in style now. So the little bit,
Goodness,
yeah,
for that.
The looser fit with the high waist is awesome. So I do feel like some of these styles like happened so perfectly around the time that I got the ostomy coming back. So that helps too. But yeah, I think you can wear whatever you want. It just takes a little bit of trial and error for sure to figure out what's comfortable for you. And I know some people's stoma is placed differently than others. Maybe it's a little bit higher up or lower down in your stomach. So I do think everyone's different, but for the most part, you can wear whatever you want.
I mean, I know, have you gone to the beach in a bikini? Have you done that?
I have not. I will say that I have not. I've worn one that's, it showed the top of my bag because it was sort of like a high-waisted. But that's as far as I get. I know I see girls on my page a lot who will just go full blown bikini, and I'm like, I can't do it. But
it's funny because I've done it. And then I did a fitness competition with my bag.
That is so cool.
So I was standing there and there was this young girl who had no idea. And she looked, she goes, what is that? Like, and pointed at me. Like it came out of her mouth loud. And the woman next to her goes, so she goes to the bathroom. The other woman next to her knew, right? And everybody's
Yeah.
like, so happy you're here. So, but yeah, now I love what you said. Like the high-waisted bikinis are in. So now it's like, okay, I can do this.
I know, it's awesome. Like the one pieces are coming back. I feel like some of those cool like 50s styles even are starting to pop up. So
exactly. So you can, and you can wear anything. And like you said, I mean, what was the name of the underwear company?
Ostomy Secrets.
Yeah, I haven't tried them yet, but I did go. Spanx has their. They have,
yes. Okay. Yes, that's what this company has too. It's so cool. And then it definitely kind of like sucks you in. So that's a perk too. But really hides the bag. So yeah, it's awesome. There's so much stuff out there.
Yeah, I love, and you're right. There is so much stuff out there. Now you started talking about things. So we talked about clothes. What about dating? How has the dating life been?
Yeah. So this is a question that I get so much on my Instagram page, especially with, people around my age or even a little bit younger. And not to say that I'm an expert at it whatsoever, but I will say that
I'm still trying to date him after 20 years.
But I certainly think that I've come a long way. I think when I first got it, I was like, oh, I'm never going to talk to a boy again. This is awful. I'm going to be alone forever. But now that I've gotten a little bit older, I've sort of come to the realization that if somebody can't handle it, or if they, it's really going to bother them, then maybe this isn't the person that I want to be with. So some of the things, like I mentioned, that underwear company, there's so many things to cover it and make you feel a little bit more confident. But I've learned that to just kind of be a little bit more open than I normally would. I think I sometimes do have a hard time just being open about other things, let alone my ostomy. So it's really helped me kind of just be a little bit more open and tell the truth. So I think sometimes it even helps to tell people earlier on, as opposed to waiting, until you're gonna get intimate or whatever. So yeah, I think just being open and upfront about it and saying, listen, I have this because I have Crohn's. It's not something that I chose to have. And a lot of times I feel like people don't even know what it is, or they've never heard of it. So then it kind of takes a little bit more explaining. And I think, just kind of let that person react to it and have them ask questions if they want. But yeah, I think just being open about it is really helpful. And most of the time, I've never come across somebody who is mean to me about it. Luckily, I've heard some horror stories, though, I will say. But yeah, I think just explaining it, being open really helps. Like you have to be in any kind of relationship about other stuff too.
You do. And especially, I mean, and like you said, and I think that it sounds like it has created you to be more confident, have more self-confidence, because you can talk about something that's so intimate that you wouldn't talk about. You wouldn't think to have to talk about this to somebody on a date when you're on a date as it is.
Yeah.
If I can remember back that far.
I know that everything's nerve-wracking, and then you have to add that into the mix. So it does add another layer of like, I don't even know how to word it. It's always going to be awkward. I think like that initial conversation, like I won't lie, I'll say it's a little bit awkward, but like I said, if the person they can't handle it, or they don't know what to do about it, they're not going to like you because of it, then that's not somebody that you want to spend your time with. So I think
absolutely not.
Yeah, having that outlook.
And one of the other things that I love that you talked about a lot on your social media is the fact that you work out. Because I've had people come to me going, how can you still work out? I thought you couldn't work out with this. And I had somebody say that doctors told them not to with it. Why don't we talk about that? Because I'm a workoutaholic. I'm on my Peloton. I row, I throw kettlebells around, I lift weights in the gym. I was doing thrusters with 300 pounds in the bar. But I'm like, my girlfriend's like, what are you doing? I go, I put one of the mats over in between it. And I go, I can do it now. They're like, I go, I just got to set it a different way. I can't have it laying on my ostomy. Something would happen. I mean, be careful with what you're doing. So what kind of workouts are you doing?
Yeah. So I am not as crazy as you are with the body. Like, you're so fit. I will not lie and say that I'm not fit, but so good for you. But yeah, I don't think that there's any restrictions. I actually recently made a post about this because people ask me that all the time. Like, can you work out? Can you do normal things? Can you go swimming? Like, yes, you can do all of it. And I think, right after you have the surgery, like, especially if it's your first abdominal surgery, you're going to be sore after for a little while. And you want to make sure that, your body's healed and recovered. don't want to jump right into anything. And I know that, we are at more risk of getting a hernia by like even like lifting something, not even working out. You to lift a big heavy object. It's like, but that's just right following surgery. But after that, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So after college, actually got really into yoga. And I find that, I have Crohn's, so I do still flare occasionally where I get, stomach pain or I'm tired or whatnot. And I feel like that's always been a workout that I can go back to and feel good and accomplished about it. I like the stretching aspect of it, and also kind of just like calms me down too. But when I'm feeling really good and have a lot of energy, I like to go to the gym and do more of like a hardcore workout, maybe on the treadmill or like you said, the Peloton, and lifting more weights. But yeah, I think yoga is my number one workout of choice.
I love it. And yoga is so good for your digestive tract as it is, and some of the poses that you do just to get things moving through, because that's kind of what we want. We want stuff to keep moving through.
I know. Yes.
Nutrition out of that. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Oh my gosh, I actually ate some zucchinis last night, and I went a little bit overboard, and I'm kind of feeling that today. A little stuck up in there.
Yeah.
But yes, important to keep things moving for sure.
It is. Do you have a hard time now? You have Crohn's, so do you have a hard time? Is it more from having like lots of vegetables, like you said you had too much zucchini yesterday? Is that typically what gives you a flare?
I don't know if it causes a flare necessarily, but I do notice that if I am currently in a flare, my intestines are inflamed, of course, it makes things a little bit harder to push through. So, like, my inflammation tends to be like right at the end where my stoma is.
Okay.
So, it's like, as stuff is digesting and is starting to push through, like that, I kind of have to be a little bit more careful about what I'm eating. But I wouldn't say it causes a flare. It's just that, when I am in a flare, or just in general, I kind of have to think more moderately when it comes to like eating big salads or uncooked vegetables or fruits or seeds. Like I kind of stay away from that stuff just in general. But yeah, I think for the most part, since having an ostomy, I can actually eat a lot more than I used to be able to. Like I have my appetite back, which is awesome. But like things like an iced coffee, I'm drinking a Starbucks right now. I would have been like running to the bathroom the whole rest of the day. It would have been ruined before my ostomy.
But you don't have to worry about it, because even if it does run through you, it's right into the bag.
Right. Yeah.
That's one of the things that we laugh at. Whenever I talk to anybody, it's because I didn't have Crohn's. I mean, I had cancer, so I don't know what you guys had to go through prior to having this, right? So I know that some people were talking about being in the car and always having to worry about where the next bathroom was, and you couldn't really live a full life with having Crohn's, because you were always thinking like, I need to go to the bathroom, or what if an accident happens? Like, and now, accidents happens with our bags at times, they can leak, things like that, but it's so different.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I used to say when I was in middle school that the bathroom was like my best friend. I knew where all the bathrooms were in school. I'd go out shopping to the mall in town. I'd know where all the bathrooms were, coffee shops, wherever. Like I said, when I went to school and I picked that really big school with a really big campus where I had to walk a long way to get to class, I'd always be like stopping different places to go to the bathroom. And I think that just like really plays into like your mental health too. Like I was constantly just like anxious and worried all the time. Like it got to a point where I wouldn't even want to leave my house because I'm like, I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. We talked about dating earlier. Like I'd say that dating can be a little bit tough now with an ostomy, but looking back, it was probably worse before. Like I couldn't imagine like, being asked out on a date, having to sit at a restaurant and like thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to get up and go to the bathroom. Like there would be times where I'd like not eat for a whole day because I didn't want to have to worry about the bathroom, and that's not healthy. Like you can't live like that.
No.
So yeah, it was definitely took a toll on me, and being as young as I was too, like it, I didn't want to be the girl who was always in the bathroom at school. But yeah, a lot better now that I'm not having to deal with that as much, which is good. And like you said, leaks can happen, accidents can happen now, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Not the worst. And it's not the worst, know, probably, and you've been through worse, and now you're healthy, you look great.
Thank you.
You look healthy, your skin's glowing, and all the proper nutrition. It always shows up on our skin if we're getting the right nutrition, that's for sure.
That's right.
So if you were to leave the listeners with one thing, what would that one thing be that you would want them to know?
I love that question. I think if I were to leave the listeners with one thing, I would say to just be positive and, people go through all sorts of things in life. And I feel like if you have an ostomy at the time, maybe it feels like the end of the world and it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you, especially if you're a young girl like I was. Just remember that there's other things in life that are good, and you might get your health back, you might get your freedom back. If you're like me, being chained to the bathroom is not a fun way to live your life. So just be happy. There's so much to be happy for and thankful for. So that's probably my advice that I'd leave everyone with.
I love that so much. That is great advice. And hopefully your listeners listen to that. Probably one of the best advices ever. Lauren, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week and for sharing your story and for being so open and helping with the stigma around ostomies and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers.